people of the Church of St. Luke and St. Mary in Hope and Belvidere, New Jersey, have observed the National Prevention of Gun Violence Sabbath for 2 years now. Last year we were in the sanctuary at St. Mary's, and the way that we visually presented the issue was to have shoes lined up on the steps to chancel, along the aisles, and we had glittering blue spike-heeled shoes. We had scuffed work boots. We had little children's sneakers with the laces untied, and it really gave you a very deep impression of how gun violence affects people of all ages, people of all kinds in all places. And this year we decided to go with angels, and this came out of an image online of how they were commemorating the people who were killed in Newtown, the students and the teachers and the principal, and they had on their lawn an angel for each person. So we cut out angels and hung them up in our sanctuary. Instead of a sermon, we had a time of reflection, and we asked ourselves what it means to be followers of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, and members of a world, citizens in a world where such violence is so prevalent. And one of the most striking responses that we heard was one person who, upon entering the church and seeing the angels, saw the name of Adam Lanza first and foremost. And of course, he was the shooter who perpetrated the violence at Newtown. And this person in our discussion said when she saw that name, her first response was to say it didn't belong there, that he didn't deserve to have a place among the angels. But in further discussion with her neighbor in the pew beside her, because her neighbor, when she saw the angels, her response was to think of her faith and to think of gratitude and forgiveness. So when the first person heard this from her neighbor, she realized that while her response was human and one that many of us would share, that as a Christian, as a member of the body of Christ, forgiveness needs to be first and foremost.
So back in March, Redeemer joined with Morristown to honor the Gun Sabbath weekend, that weekend, and we created a cutout of a gun and that had a chalkboard display part of it where people throughout the weekend could write how gun violence had affected them or how they felt about the proliferation of guns in our country. And as part of that weekend, Philip and Jermaine Guzman spoke about how a tragic event in their life, the killing of their 20-something-year-old son in Brooklyn, had affected them. But what they told us was at that time, and then came back to share with the whole congregation this last Sunday on the Sabbath, Gun Sabbath, was that while it was tragic, they didn't want it to turn their lives into tragedy. They took that tragic event and looked at why it happened and challenged all of us to respond in ways similar to what they have done.
And that's his love. And I don't always show the love because I'm still working this thing out with our son, but I know one thing, we are standing in the gap. We will do what we have to do. We will touch someone. We just need other people to partner with us so that we can get people's attentions, like the congressman, like the councilman. We have to do it because it's going to affect other people, and we see it. Newtown, Virginia Tech, Columbine, all these. It's affecting everyone. And it's just not in poor communities. It's in every community. Yeah, so we can't say it's a social issue because it isn't. Because guns have no color. They don't care. They're in your community just like they're in our community and everyone else's community. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And again, our plea is that people will just hear. And once hearing, put foot to action. Because it has to happen.
If you're called to.
I'm 81 years old. The first time I came personally in touch with gun violence was when I was about 10. And a neighbor's daughter, visiting her cousin next door, got her father's gun off the shelf, took it down and shot her cousin. Fortunately, the bullet just grazed her heart. She was out of the hospital in a few days, but it could have been so different. And that made a big impression on me as when I was a child. And now we're confronted almost daily with stories of multiple deaths because of guns. So I just hope that Redeemer is able to continue to spread the word. And even if we only reach 1 or 2 people, that could make a big difference.